All right, welcome. Today we're tackling a huge puzzle, one that sits right at the very heart of the Hebrew Bible, and honestly has had people scratching their heads for centuries. So here's the big question we're digging into. Is the God of the Bible this grand, universal creator of everything, or is he something much smaller, just a tribal deity for one group of people? Which is it? I mean, that's really why this is a question in the first place, right? You hear the title, God of Israel, and your brain immediately jumps to, a local God, a protector for one specific tribe. It sounds just like the kinds of gods you'd hear about in ancient Egypt or Greece. But, and this is a big but, the real story is so much more complex. And honestly, way more revolutionary. Okay, to untangle this, we've got to go all the way back to the very beginning. Let's take a look at the universal foundation the text lays out right from the start. So the first big clue, and it's a huge one, is right there in the creation story. I mean, think about it. Before there was an Israel, before there were any nations, the Bible says God created, well, everything. The heavens, the earth, the whole shebang. By definition, if you create the entire universe, you're the God of the entire universe. It's that simple. And it's not just a one-off idea. The text keeps hammering this home with some really specific titles. He's not just the God of Israel. He's called the God of heaven and earth, the Lord, or you could say the owner of heaven and earth. Abraham even calls him the God of the world. I mean, come on. Those are not the titles you give to some small-time local god. And that's not all. There's a second piece to this universal puzzle. The story is very clear that all of humanity, every single person, every nation, comes from one common ancestor, Adam. So if God created the father of all people, then logically, he has to be the God of all people. It's a simple but really powerful idea that's baked right into the narrative from the get-go. Okay, but this brings up a great obvious question, doesn't it? If humanity started out with this idea of one universal God, what went wrong? Where did all these other gods suddenly come from? How did we go from monotheism to polytheism? Well, the argument here is actually pretty wild because it flips our usual assumptions on their head. The idea is that monotheism was the original belief system. Think about it. In those early stories about humanity, what are the big sins? You've got corruption, violence, that whole Tower of Babel thing, which is all about pride. But you know what's missing? The number one no-no in the rest of the Bible. Idolatry, worshiping other gods. Its absence suggests that maybe, just maybe, idolatry was something that came along much later. It wasn't how things started. All right, so this brings us to the real core of the paradox. If God is so universal, why the laser focus on one specific group of people? Let's try and resolve this. And yeah, this is the big one, isn't it? This is the sticking point for a lot of people, the whole idea of a chosen people. It just sounds like it flies in the face of everything we've been talking about. It feels like God is playing favorites, which, if that's true, brings us right back to him being just another tribal god. So the key to understanding this is to compare two totally different models of how a god can work. You've got the Greek model, right? Zeus was supposedly the king of all gods, but he definitely had a soft spot for the Greeks. They never really figured out that contradiction. But the Hebrew model? It's something completely different. It's a universal God who picks one nation, not because he likes them more, but to give them a job, a mission. And that mission is for the benefit of everyone. And this is where that phrase, a nation of priests, becomes so important. See, being chosen here isn't like winning the divine lottery. It's not about getting special treatment. It's a job description. It's a massive responsibility. Their job is to be the world's teachers, to hold on to this knowledge of the one true God and make sure it gets out to the rest of humanity. Their special status is all about serving a universal goal. All right, let's tie this all together. If this whole mission to the world idea is for real, then we should be able to find some clues, right? We should see some echoes of this knowledge, even outside of Israel. Which leads to the final, critical question. If this message was supposed to be for everyone, did anyone else actually get the memo? Or was this knowledge completely lost to the rest of the world? And what's fascinating is that the text itself drops hints that, yeah, other people did know. You see someone like Lot, for example, using God's most personal, sacred name when he's talking to his relatives who were, not exactly believers. Or you get this amazing story of Abimelech, a king from another nation, who has a dream from God and calls him Lord. It's like this little flicker of recognition showing the idea was out there. And these little moments, they're not just throwaway lines. They're actually super important. They're meant to show us that the knowledge of the one universal God was never totally locked away with just one group of people. It was out there, like little echoes, just waiting for people to hear it again. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up the whole argument. The specialness of one group has no other point than to serve a goal for every group, to help everyone know about the one Creator, God. So that's where we land. The paradox of the God of Israel, who is also the God of everyone. It's not really a paradox at all once you reframe it. It's not about favoritism. It's about a strategy, a very particular strategy for a universal mission. And that leaves us with a really big idea to chew on, one that goes way beyond this one story. How can any of us use our own unique identity, our culture, our nation, not just for ourselves, but to serve a purpose that's bigger than us, one that benefits everybody? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.